Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to TraderMerlin Show. Sorry for the late start here. I was just doing some data gathering, and I realized, holy cow, I better hit go live on the show today. It is the 29th of May. We're getting near the tail end. Just a couple more days for this month, which we'll do the roundup of the numbers probably on Wednesday's show. John Rowland of barchart.com will be our guest on the Thursday show, talking about something he calls the Powell Hammer. So that should be a fun one. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit of a follow-up to what we talked about on Thursday, which was chip makers, semiconductors. Did a little bit of research over the weekend, and it was interesting. I also had a couple questions that came in from you, the viewers, which, of course, as you know, drives this show. So I'm going to incorporate that into today, dive into a couple of those questions, and then we'll just see where the show takes us today, because I didn't have a ton of time to prep as I'm just slammed doing other projects right now. So here is to start with, our topic du jour. Hey, Thomasina, Joachim, you're becoming a regular in all my channels that I'm on. Good to see you this morning. Sorry for the boring 5-step process, but that's the way they want it done now. So one of the questions I got was about ARM, or ARM Limited. Now, I put the new kid in town just because it's looking to go public this year. So first off, ARM, what is it? It's surprisingly, it's a chip making company. And could not be better time to do an IPO. I mean, right now, if you're doing launching a chip company with an IPO, and you start sprinkling in there, hey, AI this, AI that, AI this, AI. I mentioned this before, that during the dot-com bubbles, companies that didn't have anything to do with the internet were just changing their name to .com, and prices were surging. Well, if they can pull this off in the next couple of months and do an IPO with all this hype of AI, and they do have some AI chips, granted they're predominantly for phones, smaller capabilities, but there may be some upside here for their technology going forward. This might be a great opportunity for them. So as you can see here, the graphic says ARM Limited, the new kid in town. And this was a question, or this was started because of a question that came in from one of our regulars. This is Michael. Michael says, what's the news on the ARM IPO? Will it be hyped out of this world? Seems like with the surge in AI interest, it will be the perfect time for AI IPOs to start up again to take advantage of all the excitement. You could not be more correct, Michael. It is going to be hysteria for this IPO. And I'll even sprinkle in a little bit more as to why this is going to be such mass hysteria for the ARM IPO. Now, before I dive into any of this, I'm going to say this. Unless you can get shares of the ARM IPO at the initial strike price, what they say is going to be the initial offering price. And the only way you're going to get that is if you have connections. You know somebody that's connected at the underwriter, and they're like, hey, can I buy $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth, millions of dollars worth of this IPO? Then that's the only way to get it. Because I'm coming up with a hypothetical here. Let's say that they announced the night before, the week before, that the IPO price is going to be $50 per share. Given all of the hype that's going on, they'll probably jump that to $100 the day of the IPO, and it might open at like $150 or $200 because they've created hysteria over this thing. So a little bit of a backstory. You know, it's funny to think that the Brits have a chip maker over there, but they do. They actually have a chip making firm over there, and it's called ARM Limited. It's up in Cambridge. Been around since 1990. They make chips that are used in Apple iPhones and MacBooks, and they've licensed technology to Google. So Google's chip is now using ARM's designs. They're really designed to be, they design and license intellectual property for semiconductors and chips. That's what they do. So Google has bought into that and is using some of ARM's designs. Microsoft, as well as using some of their designs for their Windows 12 chips and other AI things that Microsoft is going into. So right away, ARM has some excellent partners. Apple, Google, Microsoft. I mean, if you want 3 people to help your business grow, pretty sure that's where you need to go. So that's great for them. Again, I mentioned that at Cambridge, and there was also a dispute, kind of a squabble. Some of you may not know this, but when you look at where a stock gets listed, sometimes there's a battle for that, where the exchange is like, hey, we want you over here, or we want you over there. And historically, if you were seen as the excellent company and you are someone of pedigree and you are very significant, butting my tie over here, you would go to the New York Stock Exchange, right? You'd list on the NYSE, and that was like where you wanted to get listed. However, the NASDAQ has changed a lot of that. And really, if you're a tech company, you want to go to the NASDAQ. That's where it all stands. Well, there was a fight over ARM between NYSE and and NASDAQ and the London Stock Exchange. Remember, this is out of Cambridge. It's a British company. Ultimately, NASDAQ won. Do you guys know what was one of the kickers as to why the NASDAQ got ARM to list on the NASDAQ versus the London Stock Exchange and New York Stock Exchange or some other one? What do you guys take some guesses out there just to give some fun in chat? What are some of your guesses as to why the ARM might choose to go with the NASDAQ? And I'll dance around a little second so you guys can type in some answers. I know there's a 30-second delay. So let me explain how the IPO process works for you, and then I'll go and read your responses. The way this IPO works is ARM got an underwriter, decided to go public. They get an underwriter who buys all the shares at an agreed upon price from ARM, and then they go on a roadshow. And they go, I don't know why I did a French accent. That was supposed to be refined and sophisticated, Margaret. That was a French, but that does not mean you would want to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Oh boy, here we go. So the underwriter does what's called a roadshow. So once they've locked in and said, okay, we're going to be your underwriter, then they start going on the road and they're pumping this thing. They're getting their analysts, their scouts to go on CNBC, Fox, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, any business program you can get on. Talk about ARM Inc. Talk about ARM Inc. And it's the next greatest thing. It's this. They keep pumping it to get it into our ears. So we're like, you call up your broker like, hey, I'd like to get some of this ARM IPO. And now your broker is going to go out and try to find some for you. So they're manufacturing demand. And the more that they can do that, the better their IPO price is going to be. And as the underwriter, that makes them more money. So the way it typically works is an underwriter is going to go and try to see what interest is. If there's good interest, they'll keep, if there's amazing interest, they'll keep it all themselves, which is probably what's going to happen here. If there's medium interest, they might go to some of their other partners, like, okay, I'll go to my friends at JP Morgan and say, hey, I'll give you a block of 10 million shares of this, and try to parlay some of that risk to me, the underwriter. If it doesn't really have a lot of interest, then what's going to happen is going to start to go to the smaller banks and financial firms. And if there's really not interest at all, what they're going to do is they're going to be calling up you and be like, hi, is this Savazi? Hi, this is Merlin. I'm your broker over at XYZ Brokerage Firm. Listen, I've got a deal for you. This ARM IPO is going to be amazing. If they start calling you for IPO shares like to give it to you, you got to question, why would it get down to you if this was really a hot thing? The firm would keep it all and sell it to you at a higher price later if it was a hot thing. So those are kind of like the 4 tiers of your IPO strategy here. This one is going to be hyped to the moon. So some of your comments as to why ARM decided to list with the NASDAQ. Some good comments here. Peasant says more volume. NQ offering lower fees. No, they didn't offer lower fees. They offered something better. Ticker symbol of choice. They don't have choice, but they will, they'll pretty much have the run of the mill to pick what they want. Nothing that's already taken. Hype stocks thrive on the NASDAQ, correct, but you get some that are on the NYSE as well. I don't know if I'd necessarily call ARM a hype stock. I mean, they're a legit company. They're doing some pretty good numbers. I looked at their some of their stated earnings because it's private at this point. Some interesting, they're doing pretty well. So, bigger market, we are bigger suckers. Well, that's typically the case. I mean, generally the retail population, Mammon is going to be the one left holding the bag, period. Not to sound condescending to retail investors, because I am one of them, but we're the ones that usually get the last of the good stuff, right? So the reason was the NASDAQ said, we will give you $50 million worth of marketing. So the NASDAQ exchange is basically paying $50 million to get ARM to come over, and all that $50 million will be used for promotion and marketing and hype. So that just further feeds this marketing machine, which is why I'm telling all of you, stay away the opening day of that IPO. Just be really careful. NASDAQ is where big tech dogs are. Correct, Joe. That's generally where most of the big tech companies go. But in this day and age, if you're a company as big as ARM, who is in that AI space, I mean, we've talked about this for the past few days, that AI is just blowing up. It's becoming almost too hot. And, right now, if they did their IPO next week, it'd be the best timing they could possibly do ever. In another 3-4 months, maybe it dies down a little bit. But that's my take on the ARM IPO. They haven't they have not given a definitive date. Just said it's going to be in 2023. My guess is it'll probably be another few months till we get that IPO. But if I'm the underwriter right now, I'm trying to move that up as quickly as possible to capitalize on the mayhem of AI that's just surging right now. You know, it was interesting. I actually looked to see kind of what products they developed, and it looked like ARM wasn't doing the full, you know, giant GPU units. They're doing smaller stuff designed for phones. Now, in some of the materials I was reading also, analysts were calling for the president and CEO to sprinkle AI into all their conversations now, even though that may not have been their focus was AI. Shift it that way because that'll help you with the IPO price. So it's just, I think, further information to help feed that hysteria machine. How does IPOs work with the options market? Is there a delay when their options are traded going? Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that one, Sava. I think options theoretically can start right away, but generally they don't. Usually there's, it's either 30 or 90 days. I forget which one it is. It's been so long since I messed with IPOs. It's 30 or 90 days is typically that window of time before you can go short. And a lot of them have a lockup period time where the insiders can't sell for a certain window of time. So there's all sorts of little lockup things that I'm not sure may be specific to that IPO. Personally, I'll tell you personally, I have not bought an IPO in 15 years. I bought some back in 2021, I think, and 2020 just for fun because I was trading actively. But I don't mess with them anymore because typically what happens is an IPO surges on the opening day, maybe a week or month after that it rallies, and then it comes crashing back down and giving back almost all of its gains, and maybe even more than all of its gains. So it's an interesting company. You know, they're owned by SoftBank. So one other thing that you could do instead of buying the IPO, you could buy into SoftBank, which I traded on Japanese exchange, I believe, on the Nikkei. That'd be a little around the, you know, backdoor kind of way to get a hold of that IPO price because right now they're owned by SoftBank. But the problem with SoftBank is they're in so many different companies. They'll buy this one, sell that one, buy this one, sell that one. From the internet in 2021, ARM was valued at $80 billion when reviewed in the potential deal with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA made them an offer for $40 billion in 2020 or 2022. So I don't know if I don't think it was valued at $80 billion. They wanted more money, but what happened is regulators shot that one down because I guess antitrust or something. I'm not sure why the regulators shot that down, but there was a regulatory issue as to why it didn't go $40 billion. Now they're expecting 80. My guess is it'll be way higher than that. But you look at some of these market caps. I did grab some cool charts today. Not sure how they would do it in a world of $1 trillion company. And by the way, congratulations are in order. NVIDIA today became the 7th company in the United States to breach $1 trillion worth of market cap. Of course, it came back down. Let me just bring up NVIDIA for you. So per my calculations, if it got to $404, that would have given it a $1 trillion market cap. As you can see here today, intraday, we hit $419. So NVIDIA officially became a $1 trillion market cap company today, although it finished like right around $990-something billion market cap. Now, I know we're bouncing around here, but check out this candlestick formation right here. I am very excited about this one. I told you I wasn't looking to short NVIDIA at all. I will probably bite my tongue on that one, but I may go short on NVIDIA tomorrow if it starts to do what I think it may do. You notice you've got this giant run up. You've got from $300 all the way up to $419 per share in 4 days, 2 breakaway gaps, and now you have a shooting star formation at the top. And if you look at the volume, which doesn't really help too much, you do have elevated volume, but of course that's just greed jumping that thing up today. So I think you might see a nice pullback tomorrow in NVIDIA. Again, very, very, yep, Chris says star, yep, shooting star, yep. What other charts did I have here? I got other graphics, but I'll wait and hold out on those. So anyway, wanted to share that one with you. This one might be a very good short potential opportunity tomorrow, but it's very dangerous. You guys know it's so damn volatile. Let me bring this up here. So really, if it gets down below, let's call it the low of today's candle was $399.49. So if we get down below that, it's going to open up tomorrow, above that, sell off down below that, and then I think you might have a great short going on. Oh, Tomasina. Yeah, I have to say, congratulations to the Miami Heat. I mean, who thought that the 8 seed would upset the Celtics, and especially after the historic 3-game run that the Celtics have had, they just sucked last night. I could not believe how how bad the Celtics looked. It was just shoot threes, shoot threes, shoot threes, shoot threes, and that's pretty much it. No defense, but shoot threes. And, you live by the three, you die by the three, as a Warriors fan over here would know. But anyway, should be a good final. I think the Denver Nuggets are going to destroy Miami. Miami's banged up, Denver's rested, and Denver's damn good. Tom calling the bandwagon, huh, Thomasina? Okay, so Chris says, where is your target on this one? Well, for me, Chris, I would just be looking at this as a day trade if I'm looking to short NVIDIA tomorrow. I really don't feel comfortable shorting the strongest, most hyped company in the world right now. It could easily jump and hit 500 tomorrow. You just never know. So I'm only going to go short this. I'm going to be very clear. I am only shorting this one if it opens up above 399.46 and then starts to break down below it. I'll look that for a momentum trade to the short side, somewhere down around 389. So, give me a $10 chunk there. Trade that with 1,000 shares, make it grand. 1,000 shares would be $10 drop. That's 10 grand. So if I can capture any piece of that, I'd be very happy with that trade. But I don't want to hold this one overnight short. I don't believe holding this thing short is a good idea. It's crazy. These things are just way too volatile, and there's too much hype in it still. A couple other things you may find interesting, and I was digging through some more semiconductor stuff over the weekend just to kind of see how the chips lay. But yes, there was totally a pun intended. Yes, Dave. Not only is there that symbol on NVIDIA, I'm gonna bring up the Nasdaq here so you can check that one out. You also have it on the Nasdaq 100, which is the primary reason why you have it is because of here's your Apple, right? So you got a shooting star on Apple, not Google, not on that one. I'm just bringing up the Magnificent Seven. You could almost call that a shooting star, but it used to be the FANG stocks, right? We had Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Now Alphabet. That's all gone now. We need to come up with a different acronym. They call them this Magnificent Seven, which is Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, and now NVIDIA is part of that Magnificent Seven. On that note, we talk about them being the biggest drivers of price, the drivers of the market going forward. Check this chart out. You might like this one. This just shows you R&D that was spent in the last 12 months. Let me see if I can pop this just a little bit bigger here. I didn't apologize. I didn't have enough time to get all my graphics in order, but I'll make that a little bit bigger for you. So this is R&D spent in the last 12 months by these respective companies, and I think it's pretty amazing. Look how much money Amazon's been spending on R&D. I mean, that is just, and I want to say that this is, is it billions? It's a tremendous amount. But NVIDIA, who's, soared and gained almost $200 billion in market cap in just a couple days, they're under $10 billion. But Microsoft, Apple, Meta, Google, Amazon, all pouring money into research, which is most likely one of the reasons we're seeing them have such phenomenal trajectories and carrying this market up. Now, on that note, here's another great graphic. So I like to see where the power is within a market. And what we're seeing right now is the average market cap gain year to date, right? So think of the average market cap gain for companies overall. Check out this graphic. So the Nasdaq 100, $4 trillion worth of market cap gain year to date for the Nasdaq, right? Just been a stellar year for the Nasdaq so far. If you look at the leaders there, you have Microsoft at 17%, Apple at 17.7%, right? So that means that 17.7% of that $4 trillion gain has come from Apple. Notice that the bottom 93 companies only make up 15.9%, which tells you, like we've talked about many, many times, that Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and Tesla are absolutely leading the charge here. Now, the only reason that you see NVIDIA on there is because of the earnings statement and what happened in the last week, right? That 14.7% of the Nasdaq's gains, it's 140, that's just more than that. It's a couple $100 billion, actually several $100 billion because of those recent earnings announcement and that big pop. So anyway, just showing a couple really interesting charts that I found interesting going forward. Let's see. Apple is similar in Canada. Yep. All right, that was the Thomasina. So, question that came in also on this same topic from Gene was related. What are your thoughts on Nvidia being overpriced, short? Again, I don't feel comfortable shorting long-term as a swing trader on Nvidia. I just think it's way too strong and there's too much hype. Do I believe it's overbought? 100%. 100% I believe it's overbought. But it doesn't mean I want to be crazy and jump against all the hype and hysteria. Do I think it's going to go down? I think it will at some point. I don't think it's going to crash. There's just too much good stuff going on. But to put into perspective over valuations, this is a graphic I pulled up. When you look at the semiconductor industry, kind of all the competitors out there, market cap. Take a peek at this one, right? We all know Taiwan Semiconductor. That's one of the biggest, you could argue, the biggest chip maker in the world. I don't have the revenue breakdowns here, but they were at $535 billion. Well, Nvidia is now over $1 trillion market cap, and their revenue is nowhere near Taiwan Semiconductor. I believe that a number I looked at said that Nvidia was like 7th on the list with regards to revenue, and I wish I had that chart here to show you all the companies' revenue. But what makes this so unique for Nvidia is on that list, their main focus right now is AI. Whereas a lot of these other companies, that's not their focus, right? They're focused on personal, like Intel, right? Still looking at CPUs. Whereas we talked about AMD is actually doing more in the GPU space, which is part of the reason we've seen AMD overtake Intel in market cap by almost doubled it. So do I think it's overvalued? Yes, I absolutely think it's overvalued. The issue is I'm not going to go against that freight train. I will short-term trade that thing so I don't get caught with some gap down, some news announcement, some release. So I will be day trading this one tomorrow. If it meets my criteria, set myself a little alert, and if it drops below that 399.46, then there you go. That's what I'm looking at. Would that work? Would that spell them all out, Madam? Or maybe it could be like, I think it's from Friday where they're sitting on the porch and that something happens outside in the movie Friday, and they're like, damn! Maybe we just call it TAM. TAM! TAAAMMN. Who knows? We've got to go up with some weird acronym for that one, but they're calling them the Seven Samurai. It's kind of the industry term. Jay Patel says AWS market share is dropping in their cloud business. I think that would be somewhat predictable, right? They were the juggernaut. Remember how much they were spending billions of dollars on R&D for a cloud. And that was a decade ago, and everyone's laughing at them going, why are you doing that? They dominated that marketplace. Now all of a sudden you have more and more competitors just jumping in to that arena. So, more competition, I think it's going to be good from the cloud computing perspective. But you got Microsoft Azure, you got Google's got their own cloud computing, you got Amazon. So you start to spread them out a little bit. It's bound to happen. It's now up to Amazon to maintain that market share by giving incentives to current customers to stay, or to give discounts or find ways to keep people there. of my pie chart. All right, I think that got most of the stuff that I wanted to get out of the way there. I didn't have any other direct questions that came in. Michael, you had asked about the Palantir article. It wasn't just on Palantir. It was on AI in general, and that was for barchart.com, and that's actually, you can go to their profile. I posted on the YouTube channel as well, put the link there. If you go to barchart.com and look at the authors, you'll find my name there, and you can see all my articles that I've done for them going forward. All right, good. So I got Michael's IPO question, and then I also have Gene's thoughts on NVIDIA being overpriced, and I think we've got that one covered. So as far as markets today, let's go run through these top 7. Really, just some of these ones are just blowing my mind. Like what happened with crude oil today was not crude oil. Well, crude oil was bad, but natural gas, man, just falling apart there for natural gas. I know some people have been messaging me saying, I'm going long natural gas. I'm like, well, it hasn't completely turned yet. But not looking good today. We'll run through that one here in just a second. Let's start with getting these indicators off my chart. And we'll start at the bottom, work our way up with crude oil. So I actually thought that crude oil was going to have a rally up to this yellow box, which is higher up. Unfortunately, that looks like it is now a failed attempt as we retrace and start to go back towards these lows on crude oil today, down 4.42%, closing at 69.46. Again, I mentioned the minister of... I forgot what he's a minister of. The Saudi oil minister or something was saying, basically alluding to a potential production cut and therefore seeing prices surge. But big down day today for crude oil, which hopefully will help us at the pump as we go to the summer driving months. Here's your gold for Glenn. GLD today, nice big pop, 1.69% to the upside, 1977. Technically, I guess we have to look at it from what time frame are you looking at it if you want to make a decision about direction. So I look at it from this picture right here. This is just a pullback. It looks like you're going to see a nice move to the upside, right? That just based off of this chart here going back to October of 2022, you've got higher highs, higher lows. Yeah, this one's, it broke those most recent lows here from mid to late April, but it's okay in the grand scheme of things. You could even probably draw a trend line between these lows and connect them. If I look at it shorter term and say, what am I seeing here? It looks like it's going to come up to supply and then start to sell off from there. Oh, you're looking at the 1 hour. It's going even way shorter. Well, normally we don't look at them that short on this program, but so if you're looking at the 1 hour time frame, I would say you're getting near those overhead supply levels, which I would argue is still right around this line we have here. You notice we got 3 points of contact at about 1988, currently in 1977. So my guess is right around 1988, 1990, you'll start to have some resistance, some issues with gold going forward. But if you can break that, you'll probably hit your 2016 would be my target on that one on the short term. But again, it's still looking weak. It's got to break through those highs and start to move up. Yeah, I'll get to copper in just a second. What's the price of that doji close on crude? That hammer looks like the retest today to crude. Are you talking on the daily now? See, now I'm. This is why I hate this delay. One day. Oh, you talking this bad boy down here? The 62. This is about 68 and a quarter. Would be where we opened that day, and we closed that day right around 85.50. All right, sorry. 68.50, excuse me. So somewhere right in the middle of that. Yeah, so it does look, you got close. I personally, when I look at a retest of this, I wouldn't do it from the body, which would be there. I do it, or sorry, the peak, which would be there. I do it from the body. So just matter of personal preferences, which would put us right around 68.55. Man, I'm dyslexic today. 68.55 would be the top of that real body, and that would be the retest area for me. All right, so I'll get to copper in just a second. Let me run through these top 7 so I can knock them out, and then we can move forward. Crude, Russell 2000 down 0.34% today. Nothing really to speak of. I'm going to just leave this chart just like that with these overlapping boxes, really staying nice inside of that new box that we've crafted here. So nice tight sideways action. Dow pretty much unchanged on the day. It was down 0.11%. Started off nice with a nice little gap up, and then closed that gap and down 0.11 for the Dow on the day. Technically, meh. I mean, it feels to me like short term, if you're looking just the past month, that we need to be thinking of slightly lower prices, but I don't see anything here that's really that great either way. Podium time, S&P, your bronze medal finisher for the day. Nice jump up and then gave back most of those gains, ending the day just up 0.04%, breaking through highs that we had, broke through this high from back in August of 2022. I still think that your target is going to be this 42.80 to 43.27, which is those peaks that go all the way back to August of 2022 as well. So we're still looking good. I was excited to see the gap up this morning, just gave it all back. And we got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's a bit misleading. It looks like a giant gap up today. It really wasn't, because Bitcoin doesn't sleep. Bitcoin doesn't have any overnight. So you really shouldn't see gaps. But because I look at the futures here, you're seeing a nice big gap. Here's what it looks like on the spot price for Bitcoin. There you go. Notice no gap. It had a huge run up on Sunday. Nice rally up, and then gave back a little bit over the past couple days. But based off those futures charts here, it looked like it's a number 2 at 4.29% gain to 28,070. And finally, no surprise, NASDAQ taking the lead, but also with a big shooting star, right? You've got that shooting star on the NASDAQ 100 here. It was up 0.45% today, but was much higher at one point during the day. Again, we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I think tech stocks might take a little bit of a breather tomorrow. And if it gets down below 14,336, that will be your line in the sand. Guys are talking copper, so micro copper. Oh yeah. Let's see if I can bring that one up for you. Let's see. MHG. Futures. There's your micro. Which one do you want? With July? I usually do the September's. Are you doing continuous? You're doing September contracts? You want specific? I mean, you're starting to see the volume pile into that September contract. So yeah, there's decent liquidity. Hold on a second. Volume 105, 120. No, sorry. Still very, very light. Let me go back to the contract before that. Anyway, I don't want to look at liquidity. You guys can check your charts, look for liquidity. Let me go to the copper chart, the continuous one, and see what that looks like. So where's my HG? There you go. So on the copper chart, downtrend, lower lows, lower highs, starting in pretty much mid-January of this year. So I would be more on a short bias here for copper just because that's what the short-term trend is. If we look at this on a weekly time frame and go bigger, for those Bob Dunn fans in the crowd, it actually looks like I'm going to be conflicting here. It actually looks like you do have a potential for it to come into this area of demand, which it tapped on your on Monday's session. Oh, hold on a second. These are weeklies. Can't be Monday's session. Thursday's session came down to the lower end of that range there for your daily. So it looks like it came right down to the bottom end of this area of demand here, and now seeing a little bit of a bounce up. But personally, I don't think it's going to be a big bounce because we have been just slowly dropping here for the price of copper over the past 5 months, just drifting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And that was it. So two other things here. The yields, which obviously you see the daily time frame here had a pretty big sell-off, but still running at about 3.7% for that 10-year. That might be a slight reprieve for anybody getting mortgages, but you can see the just monstrous run for about the week and a half before that. And one thing that has been of particular note for me has been the Fed funds futures chart. And we saw it pop up to 70% on Friday's session, excuse me. And now what are we at today? 61. So we've dropped down just a hair over what we had on Friday's show, but right, 61% chance we're going to get 25 basis point increase. I still am in the camp of no increase personally, but I could be wrong here. I think they'll probably hold. And then I think lastly, I wanted to go and look at the Dixie dollar index. Bring that one up here. So from a strength perspective, we talked about this head and shoulders pattern, which to me is gone. If it breaks above this right shoulder, which is going to be a peak price right around 106, if it gets above that, then this is definitely done. But I'm still going to keep it there because we could easily see it roll over, come back and challenge this 101 level like it did a few times, and kind of look like an ugly Quasimodo head and shoulders. But at least this head and shoulders pattern, I'll say it's still there. It's just starting to lose some of its strength, but watch until it breaks this right shoulder. That's the most important part there with the head and shoulders pattern. If it breaks that, then I'll delete all these lines. That said, I'll probably keep it here for now just so we can look at it. They were talking no hike June, then data dependent for the next one. Yeah, well, I think that they're data dependent on this one. So what would be weird for them to do is I don't think that they would cut here. If anything, they'll pause and then maybe raise again. It just, again, I've made this point before, it takes so long for these rate hikes to actually get through to the bottom line of the economy and businesses. So we're still trying to figure out what the impacts are of the first couple raises that they made, which were aggressive ones, and that's the part that's the big wild card here, at least in my opinion, over the next few months, is what happens with those rate hikes. So I think pausing is probably the best thing to do. We're seeing some of the economic data getting better. Although, I don't know if you guys caught some of the articles this weekend, a lot of talk about AI taking over jobs. And I think it was it Intel? I've read too much this weekend, but there were a couple big companies that were saying we're going to lay off a bunch of jobs because of AI. We've already figured out how to integrate artificial intelligence into our workplace and get rid of a lot of these jobs. So that's a trend that we'll be seeing a lot more of, and that may start to have an impact on this unemployment data, which of course this week is a big week for unemployment data. I'll bring up the chart here, or the table, just so you guys can see. Really nothing critical other than the Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index numbers. That came out negative at negative 1.1, which I thought would be, not thought, but that's obviously pretty bad. If we look at this chart here, we're now officially down below zero and seeing price contraction overall in the market in the housing market in those 20 major locations. Now, if I zoom further over, just so you can see what happened in 2007, this little blip we have right now isn't anything serious. But you notice what happened back in 2007. It started as just a little blip as well, and then it really went south as we started seeing defaults and all that type of stuff. Now, do we get to that situation here? I don't believe so. I don't believe we'll get anywhere near as extreme as this, but we might see a contraction in housing prices, getting down to maybe a 5%, 7%, somewhere in there, and that obviously is going to take away wealth out of the economy because more people that have home prices appreciating, they can borrow more money, it looks like they have more wealth, and it's this illusion of wealth. And when all of a sudden those home prices evaporate, it's not looking so good. Part of me almost feels bad for the guy next door because, market peaks and this guy now tears down his entire house and he's building a second story on it. He's almost tripling the size of his home, and that's going to cost him a ton of money. And he may be thinking that he's going to fix this thing up, turn it into a 3,800 square foot monster and flip it for a couple $1 million. It may not happen. Might want to pick the wrong time to do your remodel, buddy. Oh well. Okay, so far, I think I got everything out of the way. Let's go to the calendar here, and I'm going to show you the long term, just for the week anyway, so you can see what some of the big stuff's happening. Really, we talked about the employment data. Your Friday session is where it really starts to hit. This is Thursday. Yeah, this is Thursday. You have ADP, non-farm employment change, unemployment claims. But Friday is where we have big data. That's your unemployment rate. And they're expecting it to jump 0.5%. So I thought that was interesting, a slight pop. Don't read too much into this because going from 3.4 to 3.5 is no big deal. Right? We've been there. Here's the chart of your unemployment numbers for the past 8 years. I'll go out even further. You notice that we are still at historic lows. So even if we got to 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, I still don't think that that's much of a big deal. It's getting above 5% really starts to show that, okay, we're getting a surge or a spike. And I think we're a long ways away from that. So I'm not going to put too much emphasis on the unemployment data unless it really surges higher than expectations. So Tom says, AI has been around in the business for over a decade. IBM Watson was about 15 years ago. AI has just been put out to consumers' hands, a bit overhyped. Yeah. So I think that and you're right, we've heard the term AI for decades. I mean, it seems like it's been around a long time. And there was always this idea that Skynet is going to take over and the robots will take over. And we haven't seen that. However, what ChatGPT has done is, I think, not only open our eyes as retail people, but also business owners to the potential impacts of AI. Now, granted, they've been using automation. They've been using different computers, to get smarter. But I think that the most recent innovations changed the game. And the reason I say change the game is I was watching a guy who's a ChatGPT expert. And he was looking at ChatGPT and he put some prompts in there that that ChatGPT couldn't get the answer to. So what ChatGPT could do is through these third-party plugins, automatically went out to an app that you can get answers from people on certain things, business ideas, or you can have it go shop for you. So the AI didn't know the answer. It went out and got the answer to plug in. So now all of a sudden you're creating a machine that thinks on its own. That's something that we see in sci-fi movies, but now it's become a reality. And I think that's why we're seeing the hype, Tom. It's actual implementation. You and I haven't really seen AI implemented. Would you call my Roomba AI? No, I wouldn't call it artificial intelligence. My Roomba just moves around until it bumps the wall and it changes direction. I wouldn't call it AI. AI is where something can cognitively think and go, okay, well, this is how I need to approach this task, or this is how I need to write this. And that, I think, has really dropped in just the past 2 years, but predominantly since December or November of last year when ChatGPT really blew up. So that's right, Ricardo. The Terminator. I'll be back. It ended up being a good one, the Terminator, right? Ended up being a robot. But Skynet's coming. The fact that these robots can think on their own. I think I've shown you guys ChatGPT. Didn't I? I think I did give you a little brief on ChatGPT. So here's what was really cool in a recent video I saw. They're now adding plugins to ChatGPT. So what you can do is, I think you guys have seen me do this. Maybe I can just do it. If you want me to show you, I can just do it right now. Or otherwise, I can just talk about it. What do you guys want? Show or talk? I'll try to do a brief example here because this was really interesting. I don't have the paid version, which I think you need to get all the plugins. But here's ChatGPT. So here's Chat. Watch this. So let's say I want to build some mass, right? I want to gain some weight. So build me diet plan for a 165 pound man. Come on, Merlin. Typing and talking at the same time is tough. So let's say I want to gain 10 pounds. I need a diet plan for 165 pound man looking to gain weight to 175. I have gluten allergies. Okay, so there it is. And you can say, give me a 5-day plan, a 1-day plan, but this is going through all the meals, right? Grilled chicken, so meal number 2. When it finishes, I'll just pick one and we can kind of go through there. So, all right, I'll stop it right there. But anyway, it's going through all the meals, right? I can go through here and say, can you give me a recipe for meal day 4? Or create a shopping list for all ingredients. Boom. And now it will take whatever that list was and create a shopping list for everything that I need. And what this guy did, which is really amazing, is he typed in, he used Instacart. And he says, order everything on Instacart. So in a minute, I can say, create me all of my meal plan. Show me all the recipes, like what are the cooking directions for these recipes? It'll do that. Create the shopping list, and I can tell it to order all that on Instacart, and it'll be at my house in a couple of hours. That is pretty amazing. The only step better than that would be that once it shows up, the robot in your house opens the door, takes the groceries, puts them away, and now starts cooking you dinner based off that meal plan. That's coming. That's the Tesla bot. So someone says, you can do this for vacation planning as well. Yeah, it just opens the doors to so many other possibilities. But I love this that, for anybody here who's got a dietary issue, you can say, create me recipes that, don't include shrimp or that are gluten, don't include any gluten, or I'm vegan, or, whatever the recipes may be. You can tell it to do all that. And then with these apps, you can say, go ahead and shop for this stuff for me. That's where we're getting to. And, I like going to the grocery store. I actually like walking through the aisles and finding the stuff I want. But there will come a day where I'm going to be like, I just don't want to get all the stuff for this meal. Tell you what, give me all the ingredients for chicken teriyaki and shrimp fried rice, and I want to make some homemade ice cream with Oreos and appetizers. I need to have my artichoke dip. Show me all the recipes, print out the shopping list, and go to Instacart and order all that stuff. This is free, Chris. Yeah, it's free. It is one of the more amazing things I've seen in quite some time. I started falling down the rabbit hole of that, but as you guys know, I like the Midjourney. Midjourney stuff is just, I like the visual side of Midjourney. It's just phenomenal what it can do. All right, that's going to do it for today. Let me wrap up here, and I'm going to show you the economic calendar for your Wednesday session. You can see we have quite a bit of stuff going on Wednesday. My wife uses it for real estate. Yeah, you know what? I write articles for barchart.com, and what I'm not going to do, ask for the recipe for Benihana fried rice. You know what, Katie? Let's do that. How about, what is the recipe for Benihana fried rice? If you guys don't know Benihana fried rice, you don't know what you're missing. There you go. That is ridiculous. There's your recipe right there. And if I wanted to, guys, I could say order all this on Instacart. Let me see if it does it. Wow, it's even giving you all the steps. That's awesome. Okay, there you go. Saba says 3.5 is free, 4 is paid. But if you're fairly active, you might want to just pay for it. Order all ingredients on Instacart. Let's see if it does it. Okay, so the you have to have, I think, 4. Print that immediately. You can do it on your own, Katie. You can go get the recipe for Benihana shrimp fried rice or fried rice. Oh man, I'm salivating. I'm going to have to make that fried rice tonight. That sounds good. What is the recipe for Morton Steakhouse chop salad? I'll let you guys do that. We'll get this show could go on for hours on just how we use ChatGPT. But if the information is on the internet, it's going to be able to find that and source it very quickly. I could even say, give me the recipe for Benihana's fried rice with no gluten, and it will remove those. I mean, it's pretty amazing when it does. I sound like a spokesperson for ChatGPT, but I think all of you need to look at this and say, okay, how can I make this? How can I take ChatGPT and make my life easier? So the articles I write for Bar Chart, I refuse to use ChatGPT. I'm not going to put an article in there and have it write it for me. What I do is I will write the articles myself, and oftentimes I'll take my paragraph, which is written incorrectly because I'm not a native speaker. I put it in there and say, find mistakes or correct grammatical errors, and it will switch things around and makes it sound better. Of course, I also have a proofreader that watches that stuff for me as well, but I like to use it for that. I also will put my article in there when it's done. I'll say, give me a summary of this, because it always wants a summary when I upload it to Bar Chart. So there you go. All right, so that'll do it for me. Here's your economic calendar for mañana. For the U.S., you got some FOMC members speaking, but as Tom will tell you, there's a ton of them always speaking. Tomorrow, you have Bowman, you have Harker, and you have Jefferson all speaking. Those are kind of the lower level guys there. Swiss National Bank is actually Jordan. For U.S. markets, we've got JOLTS job opening, Chicago PMI data, and then that's pretty much it for the U.S. Earnings-wise, there's nothing that's exciting coming out on earnings tomorrow. What day did John Rowland and his top again? John Rowland will be on Thursday, and he has a proprietary chart formation that he's been using trading. It looks like the efficacy is pretty amazing. So he's going to talk. It's called the Powell Hammer. So tomorrow or Thursday, what's the date today? Today's Tuesday. So Thursday, John Rowland will be the guest on. We'll talk about the Powell Hammer and whatever other questions you guys want to dive into. So there you go, Tom. I'm using for anything I don't understand at work. I also proofread all my emails that way too. You can take an email. So let's say you got somebody sends you this ridiculous long email. You can copy it, paste it into here, and just go TL:DR and then enter, and it'll give you a truncated summary of that email without all the fluff and all the words taken out. Pretty amazing. Play around with ChatGPT a little bit. It'll definitely help speed up some areas of your work, your personal life, etc. All right, that's gonna do it for me, everybody. I gotta go. I'm gonna run. We got a 50-minute show today. All right, I'm going to do 15 minutes. So if you guys have comments, questions, feedback, let me know. TraderMerlin@gmail.com. For those that sent in questions for today that helped drive this show, thank you very much. That was, who was the ones that sent a question? It was Michael and Gene today, the ones sending questions. You can put them down below the YouTube video as well. I will look forward to getting any of those and answering, and maybe even making a show based off what you want me to talk about. So I will see everybody tomorrow. Take care. Happy trading.